If you're serious about your health, the things you put in the pit of your stomach make a measurable difference. If we're serious about optimizing the whole of our potential, it all starts with a clear and unabashed understanding of what we're consuming, how often we're consuming it, and how frequently we're making our physical, mental, and psychological health a top priority. When we get down to the heart of the matter, it's clear that our gut health in America needs to be risen higher on our priority list of things to care about. According to a September 2022 survey published by the American Gastroenterological Association, 49% of Americans suffer from gut issues which disrupt the quality of their lives. After suffering from multiple health issues, including rectal bleeding, some skin issues, chronic acid indigestion, and surgery to remove one of his organs, Tim James knew that something had to change. He's a high-performing health coach and the creator of ChemicalFreeBody.com. It's a mission-based organization which is passionate about igniting and helping people reach their highest level of excitement about their lives by putting themselves and their health first. Their goal is to rescue one gut at a time with honest, pure, and natural ingredients that taste great, which include absolutely no man-made chemicals or blinders or filters, just nature. A chemical-free body, they'll teach you to read labels and live a more natural and fulfilling life. And James joined me this week to tell me more on how we can all level up our fitness and health the natural way. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. I'll take a moment to welcome you to the program, and I'm super excited to learn all about your journey in creating your business empire and a little bit about your personal life as well. Great to see you this afternoon, my friend, and thank you so very much for being here.
My pleasure, Kevin. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Now, Tim, I know that your personal health journey has been intimately important as to how you live your life now. I know that some health challenges inspired you to sort of go on a new and exciting road of taking care of yourself. So I'm wondering if you could start our conversation by just outlining why your current mission is important to you and how it's impacted your personal life as well.
Absolutely. So my current mission is basically just empowering working class people to learn how to become their own doctors and self-heal, reduce stress in their life. These are the three things that I've noticed that just as common sense and working with 600 people as a coach over the last 12 years is that we have to reduce the stress on the nervous system in order to heal. Number one. Number two, we have to get the chemical pollutants out of the body on the cellular level and the fat and the muscle tissue in the brain, which we can speak more about later in depth. And number three, we actually have to nutrify the cells in the body with nature. So we're talking about foods that are actually grown in healthy soils. And unfortunately, today, a lot of the soils are not healthy. Just a real quick summation on that is back in 1964, a university studied soil microbiome. They actually weighed the amount of the soil-based bacteria, which is basically the gut health of the soil and the life force of the soil, and they had 2,000 pounds, about 1 ton, 2,000 pounds in an acre. 40 years later, in 2004, they went out and weighed the microbiome in 1 acre of soil, and there was only 100 pounds, not 2,000 pounds. It dropped to 100 pounds, and many of those were genetically modified bacterium. So that alone kind of sums it up. And so when we're talking about real nutrition, I'm talking about living nutrition, bacterial-focused nutrition, things like sprouts and things that have hormones and oxygen and that kind of stuff. So I learned, I didn't know any of this stuff 12 years ago, Kevin. I was an athlete growing up. I grew up on a farm, hunting and fishing. I had, like I said, I played baseball. I was pretty much on the standard American diet. It worked fine when I was younger. As I got older, though, at age 37, I was a financial advisor. I found myself 42 pounds overweight, fatigued, mental fog, just no energy. I had acid reflux really bad. I had to have Tums and Rolaids like 24/7. I was eating those things like candy, and because my acid reflux was so bad in my throat, and my gut. And then it got worse. I actually started getting eczema on my knee, and that started getting larger and cracking and bleeding. That spread to my elbows, more cracking and bleeding. I couldn't wear long sleeve shirts anymore that were white because I'd stained them. And I was kind of embarrassed about my skin. And then I had another skin issue on my shoulder creeping up. I was literally rotting from the inside out, but I didn't know what was going on. I went to doctors and was prescribed medications. I never took any of them. Half the time I never even fulfilled the prescriptions, because one of the times I saw the side effects was actually rectal bleeding. And that's what I actually had later on. I actually bled rectally for 2.5 years every time I pooped. So, my life was basically just bleeding all day long and downhill. And then I finally got really bad. My wife and I went to, she was from Peru, and we flew on a vacation with her father down to Tumbes, which is northern Peru, just south of Ecuador, northern Peru. And beautiful, amazing beaches. It was just like very remote. And I was doubled over in pain. Her dad assessed me because he was a medical doctor, and he said, "We have to get you to a hospital for surgery." And we missed the one plane flight out of that remote area by 20 minutes. So we had to rent a van and drive 6 hours through the middle of the night on a very bumpy, and I might say most painful experience of my life. The bumps were consistent, and by the time I got to the hospital, I was completely exhausted, drenched in sweat. My paper money in my wallet was soaked because I had been sweating so much from the bumps, because every bump was like somebody stabbing me in the gut with a knife. They assessed me. He did not want me to get surgery there because the surgery was, I'll just put it to you this way, man. The examination room, the light above me had a lot of bugs in it. This was in the hospital, right? So all the equipment and stuff that they have was like from the 1950s, 1960s. It was very old. He had a state-of-the-art facility and surgeons that he ran, a big clinic in Lima. So he had them dope me up at this hospital in Piora, the city there. And then I jumped on a commercial plane flight and was basically life flighted with nobody knowing. I was all doped up on medications. And then I got off that plane and went right into surgery. And I spent the rest of my vacation in recovery. So what I learned from that lesson was that, number one, I don't ever want to go to the hospital again. I hope that I never have to do that. I'm very thankful for the doctors and the nurses that did the operation and saved my life. And I think this is where Western medicine shines, where surgeries are certain circumstances necessary and they save lives. I was one of them, so I'm very thankful, and I think it's a necessary part of the healthcare system. But when it comes to chronic diseases, that's a complete fail, and that is because we're looking at life expectancy charts now dropping like rocks. So we are now, our children and grandchildren will die younger than us, and So we have some broken systems in our society, the food systems, the medical system for chronic care. And the other lesson I learned was that my poor health doesn't affect just me, it affects everybody else around me. So, because I'd ruined that vacation for my wife and her father besides myself, and we planned it out and spent a lot of money. So after that happened, a friend of mine got diagnosed with cancer on my baseball team, Kalei Mahoy, and ended up dying. He did chemo surgery and that kind of stuff, and he left 3 little boys behind. That was very rough on me and the rest of the baseball players and their families, and little kids from 6 to 17. We did a fundraiser for Kalei, and then shortly after that, another friend of mine, Charles, got diagnosed with a blood cancer at age 43. And he's the one that asked me to go to the Hippocrates Wellness Center in West Palm Beach, Florida. And that was like a natural, like, detox healing type clinic. They're really into living foods and diet and that kind of stuff. And I went with him to support him and didn't know what I was getting into. And, the first few days was kind of detox and wasn't feel good, but I was learning a lot. And I'll never forget, I took a class called Internal Awareness. And this very fit doctor comes out, Dr. Scott Josephson, and he had actually turned 50 that day, and he looked like 40. So he looked much younger and much more healthier than a guy his age, and that was kind of the theme there. The people that had been working that institute looked about 10, 15, 20 years younger than their age of normal people. So I'm like, well, success leaves clues, so I'm like, well, I still thought it wouldn't. I mean, how could you heal cancer? Like, how can, with Race for the Cure and all our best minds looking for these cancer cures, how could this little podunk place be doing it? But, there's people looking really healthy there. And then I started interviewing people, and there was people that had healed of cancer and using lifestyle and a good attitude. And I didn't even think that was possible. But we went through that internal awareness class, and this is where it really changed for me, was because the doctor came out and he said unequivocally, the average person has 6 to 12 pounds of impacted fecal material in the colon. And this is a disease. It's a very high acid. It's low oxygen, and it creates a breeding ground for viruses and bacterium and mold and yeast and fungus and parasites and cancer. So they love it. So we want to change the internal terrain, is what they were talking about. So they wanted you to clean out your colon doing something called colon hydrotherapy or colonics. Have you ever heard of that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I hadn't heard of it. So for your listeners, you basically, a colonic or colon hydrotherapy is you set on a tube rectally and water gently goes in and out of your colon for about an hour, and then it cleans that waste matter out. Now, when he told me this, I elbowed my friend Charles and said, hey, man, I mean, I came here to help you, but I ain't doing that deal. But the doctor was very smart, and he started showing, he showed virtual colonoscopies of 4 people, 3 that were unhealthy, and 1 that had been through their program that kind of healed themselves. So the first one was like a 24-year-old female, and she had Graves' disease, like a thyroid disorder, and she also had a yeast infection, thrush. And inside of her colon, you think it's going to be like brown, right? Because it's the colon. It's where poop comes out. But her colon was white and yellow because of all the yeast overgrowth. And I was like, oh, my God, that can't be good. Then the next guy was a 65-year-old guy that had stage 4 colon cancer. And they went inside of his colon, and it was black, like midnight black. And he had white worms crawling around. So he had parasites and stage 4 cancer, had a terrible environment. And that's when I was like, oh, my God. Then they went to a 45-year-old female that had breast cancer. And inside her colon, it was black, dark brown, just didn't look good. Then they went to the healthy person's colon, and you could see the pink lining of the colon. There was brown waste matter in there, but the internal terrain was completely different. The healthy person's internal terrain was completely different than the unhealthy people. And that's when the light bulb went off in my head. And I'm like, that's it. It's an inside game. And see, because you can't see inside of you. So the next day I signed up, I did the colon hydrotherapy deal. And I did it for 1 hour. They weighed me before and afterwards, and I dropped 11 pounds of this impacted funk and gunk and junk that was creating this disgusting, bad terrain inside of me. And I got that stuff out, and then I woke up the next day, and I felt so good. I looked at Charles, and I was like, dude, you feel as good as I do? I have energy like tingling in my arms, and my mental clarity's back. And I'm like, dude, you're going to heal. And I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I'm going to do this whole program with you. And you have to understand, I was a big meat eater at the time. I said I was going to give up all meat except for bacon, and then we're going to go home and do this. And that's exactly what we did. In 60 days, I dropped the 42 pounds. All my skin issues were gone except for the one on my knee. It took about 8 months because it was a large patch. I've kept it all the weight off. I've energized myself and learned more things for 12 years. But 2.5 years later, my friend had healed himself on his own. No chemo, no surgery, no radiation or nothing. He healed himself of chronic lymphocytic leukemia, which is this blood cancer. And he got to see his son graduate high school and go to father-son weekend at Oregon State University. And his son's now a real estate agent and sold Charles's house. And he's still my buddy 12 years later. And we started playing guitar and we're having a good time. And from our experiences, people started coming to my home and I just started teaching these classes, detox nutrition classes. And, 5,500 people later at my house, I started a company called chemicalfreebody.com. And now I teach people all over the world. I have world-class coaches working underneath me, doctor-formulated detox and nutrition products, and I've curated other technologies and stuff to assist us with our clients in their home so that people can heal at home, again, become their own doctor and self-heal and really get back empowered so that they can now have this healthy body so they can go out in their families and their communities and be a really productive, healthy, happy member, following their excitement and following their joy to the best of their ability and have the energy to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. And so one of the reasons I wanted to have a conversation with you today is to talk about the importance of men prioritizing their health after the age of 50. So I'm wondering what it means to you to be a health hero, and what do you think men over the age of 50 have to know about the importance of prioritizing their health?
Okay, so basically a health hero is just somebody that makes their health a priority and lifts themselves up. And by doing so and being the example, let's say to the children or the grandchildren, in this men's example, you start handing out permission slips for other people to change. You become the example. So it doesn't matter what we say, it's what we do. It's the actions that we actually take and how we live our life. Our children and grandchildren are actually watching us, and so is everybody else in our family. Now, those permission slips are handed out very graciously just by our actions, but it's not necessarily that somebody's going to grab them and do it, right? But that's not that's like a gift. You give people the gift of you following your joy, your excitement, becoming very healthy, and then that's the best thing you can do to inspire other people, because you can't push ropes and you can't herd cats. So those aren't easy things to do. We have to lead by example, by putting ourselves first and making our health a priority. And you have to ask yourself a question, is that if you have poor health right now, if you have low energy, mental fog like I did, you have skin issues like I did, or maybe you have cancer like my buddy, or anywhere in between, you probably just haven't made your health a priority yet. So that's the question to ask yourself, is when am I going to make myself and my health a priority? As soon as that gets locked into your brain and your mind, then you'll figure it out. And that's why we're here. We're here to help people. Now, I've already been through the long process of figuring all this stuff out, and we just use common sense. And we're not doctors. I have doctors on my team, but and my formulator is a doctor, but we just tell people, just follow what we're doing, see if it works for you. And if it does, keep it. If it doesn't, pitch it, go on to the next thing, and keep adding things to your lifestyle and build up your immune system until you win. That's basically how we do it. So for guys over 50, I am now one of them. I just turned 50 last week, actually about, what was that, about June 7th.
Well, happy birthday.
Thanks, man. So I can actually speak to men over 50 because I'm slightly over 50. The first thing when you were saying that is like, everybody should make their health a priority, but why wait till 50? But if you are 50 and older, it's like you have no idea how resilient the human body is. You have to understand things like the gut microbiome that's in the microbiome, these bacterium as an example, and the viruses, because a lot of people don't know this. We are made of 6 trillion human cells. So 6 trillion cells of our body are human. 60 trillion cells in our body are bacterial cells. 60 trillion, 10 times the amount. 360 trillion virus cells in our body. We're more viruses than bacteria. Now, it's not that they're all good or bad. There's some that serve us, that work symbiotically with us, like ants and aphids work together, or like mycelium works together with plants in that underground network. It's a symbiotic relationship. It's when those symbiotic relationships, those good bacterium as an example, and they're all good, but they get down to lower levels. And some of the other ones that are sitting there waiting to do their job, which is to break us down back into dirt and recycle us, they kind of take over a little bit, because if you're stressed out and you're polluted and you eat crappy foods, you're kind of slowly killing yourself faster than you should be, right? And that's standard American foods, processed foods, stress, and all that stuff, and all the toxins in our food, water, and air, and clothing, and all the personal care products. All this stuff's adding up, and you can't see it. So it's really important then for people to recognize these things, and then to create a simple lifestyle to make sure that they don't happen. So these bacterium, as an example, because I was talking about that, are millions of years old. They're much older than human beings, and they're very intelligent. So this is where you have to understand that we literally have the power to heal ourselves, and I'm a living testament. We work together with nature. We work together with these microbiome and microvirome, and we create an environment internally and externally in our body, from the air we breathe, the water we drink, the food we eat, the clothing we wear, anything that comes into contact with our skin, personal care products, shampoos, toothpaste, and we make sure that they're chemical-free, naturally occurring in nature, and you'd be surprised what happens. I'm 50 years old, and literally last Friday, I woke up and I went trail running with a friend. Then I had a heavy-duty workout, a weight training workout with my 20-year-old son. Then we did jiu-jitsu for an hour and a half. It was my second time doing that. And then later that night, it was Friday night, we actually went out and I danced for probably an hour nonstop. And I'm 50. And now when I was 37, there's no way I could have done that. I couldn't even run around a track once without huffing and puffing. I'd gotten so out of shape. And my body was breaking down because I had a terrible environment. So when I changed my environment, my cells and the bacteria and everything inside of me came back to life, healed, boosted my immune system. And that's what I've been doing for 12 years, is literally showing people what I've done, and then people just follow suit, and then they get results too. So it's not like it's magic or nothing. It's just basically nature and common sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the questions I also had for you was, how do we make our health journey more inclusive? You know, I don't know if your staff shared this with you, buddy, but I was born with what's called spastic quadriplegic cerebral palsy. Simply means that I don't have enough oxygen in my legs to walk normally. So if I'm not active and prioritize my own health, my muscles contract faster than most people. So one of the things that I wanted to ask you was about making health more inclusive and meeting people where they are in their health journey. So how do you think we can make health more inclusive so that more people are excited or inspired to make health a priority?
That's a great question, man. And with my friend literally healing himself of cancer in front of my face, and then me having my transformation, and still have been for 12 years, I've been shouting from the rooftops of what is possible for human beings. Because I figure, like, if a redneck farm kid like me, who knew literally nothing about health except that I knew that nature worked, if I can figure myself out, and my buddy heals himself of cancer, like, everybody can do this, right? So it's having that belief system and being inspired. So that's why I do these shows all the time, because I want to inspire people. But here's the deal: is once they're inspired, then it's like, well, what's next? Right? So a lot of people know they have problems. Some are in denial, whatever. What I've learned is you have to meet people where they're at. And what I mean by that is everybody's different. Maybe somebody just wants to lose some weight, so they're motivated about this much, right? Or maybe they're motivated a lot. Maybe they have a wedding coming up, right? And they want to get in shape for the wedding. More motivation there. I would hope that they would go beyond that and start loving themselves enough to make these changes. Forget about what's going on around them and just be healthy all the time. But you have to take baby steps. So what we did was, because I sold a lot of juicers, man, when I was doing those, I had those 5,500 people over to my house. Because the first thing I would do is I'd show them my water system. I'd make them a fresh pressed wheatgrass shot, and then I'd make them a fresh green juice. And then I would teach a class while they're drinking these living juices. And then afterwards, we'd make a raw living food dinner. And then we'd have dinner. We'd break bread together. And then we would talk. And then, sometimes I'd be there till midnight with people that had cancer, talking to them and stuff. And I literally juiced green juices twice a day. That was part of the Hippocrates protocol. They said if you're not doing 2 green juices a day and flooding your body with nutrition twice a day, you're not on the Hippocrates protocol. You're not going to get the same results. Don't expect it. So I've never missed, dude. I do 2 green juices a day no matter what, and I taught that. And when I made those juices, people said they'd call me a day later, 2 days, 3 days, even a week later, like, dude, just the juices and the dinner that you gave me that one day, I still have energy. It's crazy. So again, they only had it once. Imagine if you do it every day like I've started doing. So people started buying juicers. But then I'd go visit my friends, and they'd bought the juicer because they'd been to the class. I'm like, where's the juicer? And he's like, oh, it's over there under the cupboard. I haven't used it in 4 months. I'm like, why? You saw what happened to me, what happened to Charles. You know what's going on. He's like, well, bottom line was I don't want to clean the damn juicer. It was just that they hadn't made their health enough a priority yet, and people are busy, and kids and soccer and jobs and all the stuff they got to do, and taking care of aging parents today with all the problems with dementia and all. It's crazy. So I was like, okay. So I'm like, obviously these people wanted to change, but making juice twice a day was too much. The only 1 out of 10 people that were sticking with it, they typically had cancer. They had something where their back was against the wall, and they were proposed with possible death, and they would do anything to live. Most of them. Some of them wouldn't do nothing, but most of those people that stuck with juicing had cancer. That was my experience. So I thought to myself, I really want to help people. What can I do, or what can I share with them that would be the least amount of effort but would make the most results? And I came up with these 3 things, and I added another one. We actually have them on our website now at chemicalfreebody.com. When people are hunting around our website, they pop up, and you get it for free. So we just give this information out for free. It's called our Core 4 Secrets. And the first one is drinking adequate amounts of clean water. That is by far number 1 because it's really simple to do. Your body's mostly made of water. And I know statistically 95% of people are not drinking enough water, and what water they are drinking is polluted. So if we can just do that one thing, and you can get people to drink half their body weight in liquid ounces daily, which means if you're a 100-pound individual, that's 50 ounces a day. If you're a 200-pound individual, that's 200 ounces a day. If you can just do that one thing, that is going to radically improve your gastrointestinal tract. It's going to reduce inflammation in your body. You're actually going to become a smarter person, because if you don't have enough water in your body and your brain, you're actually lower your IQ. So just water alone helps so many things. Helps with the lymphatic system in the body, which is the garbage removal system. It's profound. It's monumental. That's Core 4 secret number 1. Less than 5% of the population is doing it. The second one is chewing your food until liquefied. Less than 4% of the population is doing this. So I know massive room for improvement for the listeners here. When you chew your food very well, it is actually the very first step in the digestion process. You have 2 glands in your upper mouth, and you have 4 glands in your lower mouth that secrete these enzymes lipase and amylase. These break down your fats and your starchy carbohydrates, which is mostly what people are eating or should be eating. If you don't chew your food really well, you just inhale it like Garfield, like I used to, you're going to end up with fermentation and gut rot. And that's not what you want, because your body's 98.6. And if you leave food out in the countertop, it's not in the refrigerator, what's going to happen? It's going to spoil. That's exactly what's happening in your 98.6 body. If you don't chew your food well, preload all that food with these digestive enzymes that then set in the stomach and then break your food down, that's what we want. We want digestion and assimilation of nutrients. So we want to chew it well, load it with enzymes, send it to the stomach. Like the enzymes break everything down in the stomach. Proteins are also broke down by hydrochloric acid and a substance called pepsin that's in the stomach. And then it goes through this little one foot magic tube called the duodenum, and it goes from acid to alkaline, and then it spills in to the small intestine, and that's where it should be absorbed, going through the intestinal lining into the bloodstream to go into the cells, so the cells can use it for your activities, this nutrients for activities of daily living. That's what we want. But what's happening is most people are not chewing their food well, and they're getting digestion and fermentation. So your body ferments it and gets that food out of you. The body has got to get the food out. So chewing your food is monumental for digestion and assimilation of nutrients, and it's also monumental for your happiness. Dr. Gabriel Cousens told me that I listened to him on a tape where when you stimulate your meridian points in your teeth, you can actually upregulate your serotonin up to 500%. So think about that. I mean, there's no way people with depression or anxiety can take a pill, naturally or synthetic, that can do this. The power of chewing your food for happiness is profound. Okay, so that's the second one. The third one is then avoiding liquids with meals. Why would you want to do that? Because if you chewed your food really well and you put all those enzymes in there, and then you drink a bunch of purified water or apple juice or wine or beer with your meal, you're going to dilute those digestive enzymes and you're going to go back to fermentation and gut rot, which is what we don't want. So the rule of thumb is stop drinking about an hour before you eat and wait 2 hours after you're done eating and then drink a lot of liquids again. But stay away from liquids during the food process. If you need to wash something down, just take a little bit, do very minimal. If you're taking digestive enzymes with your food, which we teach, a little bit of water, but not much. And then the last one we added later was breath work before you eat. So it's just simply taking deep breaths for 1 to 2 minutes, like this. In through the nose and pause, and then out through the mouth. And just calming down the nervous system. Because we're all in fight or flight at some level today because of the stressed out world we live in. And when that's the case, the blood leaves the organ systems to go to our extremities, our hands, legs, arms, and feet to fight or flight, to run. And so by calming your nervous system back down, the blood leaves the extremities, goes back into the organ systems. So you have the assistance of all that blood to help digest your food and your organs. And that's it. Less than 1% of the population is doing that. Less than 2% is avoiding liquids with meals. Less than 4% is chewing their food well. And less than 5% is drinking water. Those are our core 4 secrets. We have it in detail with notes. We have recipes in there, and I have a great gastrointestinal recipe in that manual for people that's very inexpensive, a liquid drink they can make for pennies that will help them heal their gut.
Absolutely. And Tim, just listening to you, my friend, I'm curious to ask you about emotional eating, and you've brought up the society that we're living in today. So how do you think we can reverse the thinking of people and what they consume into their bodies and really make sure that their emotional eating is really managed to a point where they can live a healthier life?
Well, that brings up a deeper problem, and or not problem, but I guess the challenge for people is that most of us are emotional eaters. I mean, the reality is that I'm a recovering food addict. That's the reality of it, and most of us walking around are food addicts. We don't admit to this. I wasn't admitting to it because I didn't even know, but I was addicted to foods, and a lot of the processed foods today are so addictive. Oh, let me just give you an example of how insidious this stuff is. Well, here's an easy one: sugar. If you look at sugar, just white cane sugar, it's stripped from its natural process. It's been processed. It's been stripped of its natural cofactors and all this stuff. And if you look at it, at the chemical components of sugar, it's almost identical to cocaine. Like the chemical structure of sugar, table sugar, that grandma put in apple pies is almost identical to cocaine. And you see these kids, they drink it, or they have sugar, and they go crazy, right? It's the same thing. It's actually 3 times more addictive than cocaine. So it's literally easier to get people off of cocaine than sugar. Just to put it into perspective, when you eat white flour, white rice, these types of things, these things turn into sugar in your mouth. And we have become sugar addicts, and they put it in everything because it helps sell stuff. So it's messing up with our internal metabolism. It's messing up our pancreas and insulin and all this stuff because we're just having too much of it. So now we get to the emotional stuff. Okay. Because of all the stress in the world today, you've got financial stress. 74% of people have only $400 in savings in this country. Scary. Close to 60% of people in relationships end up in divorce. That's scary. And it's all the other problems. There's financial stress, relationship stress, spiritual stress, career stress, stress in between relationships with children, grandchildren, all this stuff. That's why people are stressed out eating. My whole life, I've seen movies and stuff. When a girl breaks up with her boyfriend for whatever reason, she goes and eats what? A big tub of ice cream. And it's just kind of that thing where comedians make fun of this stuff. But the reality is we become emotional eaters, and we got these highly addictive processed foods that we run to. So the foods are the band-aid for the emotions. So what ends up happening, like when you're at Hippocrates, like the food was taken away, and that's all of a sudden we were only giving like living food, sprouts and sprouted nuts, seeds, grains, beans, avocados, veggies and stuff like that. So the dope was removed, and then all of a sudden I had to face my emotions. And your emotions are always trying to come up. They're always trying to come up. That's the pathway up, because that's how we heal. But as these emotions come up, we get scared, and then we eat the donut, we eat the ice cream, we overeat this, we overeat that, we shove them back down with a double ribeye steak or whatever, some donuts and cake and all that stuff, and we don't deal with the underlying issue. And if you don't deal with it, it just sets down there and it festers and it gets worse and worse and worse until maybe one day you explode, and then you have to deal with it. And then that's usually where a lot of crying comes into place, which is good. And I found out that it's actually an emotional detox. So crying is actually really good. For you men out there, this has actually been measured where regular tears of joy versus tears of like anxiety and pain and that kind of stuff, they're chemically different. There's literally toxins in the tears when you're detoxing. It's like emotional toxins and chemical toxins. It's kind of crazy, but that's the reality of it. And I've actually been through this experience myself. So the reality is that a lot of us have emotional issues. What's cool about it is as you take these baby steps, like drinking more water, chewing your food better, avoiding liquids with meals, doing some breath work, and then you can start cleaning up your gut. We have products to help people clean up their gut. This one over my shoulder here was our first product. It's called Green 85. It's how I was able to help people get their 2 green juices in a day without having to clean a juicer. They just throw a scoop in water and drink it. We just start there. We start in those baby steps. We start flooding their body with all these nutrients, and they start feeling better. They have more energy, and then they want to do something else. And then they start to, want to eat healthier. Their taste buds actually, after about a couple weeks, start changing back to where they were and normally should have been, and these addictions start slowly leaving them. That's what we've noticed. And then we've seen people with allergies slowly dissipate over 6 months to 2 years, whether it's pet allergies, seasonal allergies, or food allergies. And all of a sudden they can eat foods that they couldn't eat for 20 years. Now they can eat those foods again. Or they can go outside in the springtime without having, a runny nose or red eyes as they start building back up the immune system. But all this starts with a little with them loving themselves and saying, I'm going to make my health a priority, and I'm just going to start taking some baby steps towards it. And not saying that I've tried everything, because if you tried everything, you would be happy and you'd be well right now. You have not tried everything. Most of the people we get are the I've tried everything people. That's, for some reason, those are the people that we get.
Oh, well, like attraction, you must attract those people for sure. And you help them reverse and change the course of their lives. So that must make you feel good, right?
Yeah, it makes me feel great. And when I first got into this work, it was all about just helping people with their health. But what I realized is that the health is just a springboard to help them with their vehicle, their body. We get that right because the physical body is then connected to everything else in their life, their career, their relationships, their spiritual path, everything else. So when you lift up your health, all boats rise. Everything gets better in your life because everything's connected to you in that physical body.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tim, from a personal perspective, I'm curious to ask you, what's the best part about living life, and how do you celebrate the wins that you have in life?
Well, I would say the best part of living life is just the live part. It's like being alive is like recognizing that, if you are alive, that you're here for a reason, and creation does not make mistakes, right? There's no way that with the intelligence that's in every cell on this planet, between every rock and stone, that the creation actually makes a mistake. So knowing that you're not a mistake and there's a purpose here for you, and that purpose is to grow and it's to expand and be compassionate and just be love. I mean, that's what it really boils down to. So there's so many things to do here. I just think that human beings have become masters of limitation on this planet. For some reason, we have all this parental and societal conditioning, and we end up building these huge walls around us, and we're afraid to be ourselves. I'm a perfect example. I grew up in Eastern Oregon, a very small bedroom community, a farming community, But basically, I grew up in the 70s and 80s, but it was like growing up in the 40s and 50s. Very repressed, old ways of thinking. Guys are supposed to be tough. And I chewed tobacco and I drank beer and I did whiskey and I shot guns and I did all this stuff and lifted weights and athlete and, and this kind of stuff, right? And just being, an aggressive type guy. And now it's like, I've had to really break down those barriers. I mean, in the very beginning, when I started this journey, my skin started to heal because I healed my gut. And then women started commenting on my skin, like in my 40s. And they're like, wow, your skin's really beautiful. So from 37 to 42, I had a hard time with that because my ego was in the way. And I was like, don't call me beautiful, because I didn't even know how to deal with that. Like, I'm supposed to be this tough dude, this rough exterior, and I do all these things. So I pretty much stopped drinking. I stopped chewing tobacco. I got into green juices and health, and I started yoga, and I became a yin yoga instructor. I became a raw food chef, started playing music. I'm taking singing lessons, and I love dancing around. I like dancing. And I told my sons this. I'm like, I'm going to do what I want to do. This is my journey on this planet, and I'm not worried about, I don't really care what society wants anymore. I'm here to do me. And if I inspire other people somewhere to do them, then that's great. But so that's what I've learned. And I've taken like responsibility for my whole life, not just the health, but the health is kind of what woke me up to get me to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Tim, there's a mantra that I live my life by, and I always tell myself the only level of expectations you have to meet are your own, because if you don't have a personal foundational baseline of expectations, it's hard to rise up to any other artificial expectations in life. So I agree with you there. But I'm also curious to ask you about uh, consistency and establishing consistency in both life and in health. How do you think we can establish consistency on a sustainable basis?
Well, the beginning is it's baby steps. So what we do, this is a great question. So, I have people that have stage 4, let's say they have some stage 4 cancer, stage 5 cancer, right? These people have their backs to the wall. They have a gun to their head. They're ready to, some of them are like, I want to take action. They can change their whole lifestyle in a week, like, because they have the motivation to do it. Now, for somebody else, they're putting their health as a priority, but they don't have that much, and they have the demands of busy lifestyle. For them to be consistent is they start small, like things like just getting their water right, and they make that a habit until it's just a new path. It's a done deal. They don't miss. It's a non-negotiable. And then they stack something else on. Now maybe they're focused on really chewing their food, right? Maybe they start taking our products or something like that, or they take somebody else's products, or they start, you know what, I'm going to stop buying chemical produce. I'm going to start buying organic. And slowly but surely, they just keep stacking this stuff. When one thing becomes a habit, they add a new thing to their lifestyle until that becomes a habit. Then they add the next thing. And if it works for them, they keep it. If it doesn't work, they throw it away and they go to the next thing. It's a constant process of add and release, add and release. You keep adding good things to your life, and the things that aren't serving you, you don't have to let go of them. They will let go of themselves. They will release themselves from you. So the powerful word here to think about is flow. Flow, flow. Allowing things to flow into your life that are going to serve you and lift you up, and allowing the things that to flow out of your life that are not serving you. And so for some reason, you have to picture a human being. We have all these things that can help us. We have our hand out and we're keeping them away from us. We have all the things that are not serving us, and we got our hands on them, and they're trying to get away from us, and we're holding on to them for dear life. And it's just as simple as putting your hand down, allowing the good stuff to flow in, and letting go of the other stuff. Put the baggage down. Stop packing it around the airport. It's heavy. You're wearing yourself out. Let that stuff go. Let the people go that aren't serving you. They're going to be happier. I promise you, you're going to be happier. We will learn from these processes. So that's what I would say about that.
Yeah, and just one follow-up before I ask my final question. In terms of, I believe that life is an opportunity to make a measurable difference and sort of leave our sort of imprint in the sand. But I also believe that we only have one life to live, and we only have one body to take care of. So what does it mean to you to really value our body composition in terms of what we put into our bodies versus how we treat our bodies from a physical perspective? So I guess what I'm asking is, how do we make sure that our bodies perform to their optimal level, which in turn will affect our quality of life, as we've been talking about this afternoon?
I think it just goes back to what I said earlier, which is making realizing that creation doesn't make mistakes. You're here for a reason. If you have a body, then you've been given a gift.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a gift. I mean, like even like to quantify it, you can't really quantify it. I mean, like I mentioned, we're made up of trillions and trillions of cells that work symbiotically together. If you were to get injured somewhere and you got a car accident and you lost your sight, as an example, you would get millions of dollars for that. If you lost a leg, you would get millions of dollars for that. So even in a 3D model with an insurance company paying you out for your body parts, millions and millions of dollars, right? But we're really priceless. So we're worth much more than that. So the point is that we have this priceless, unbelievable, magical vehicle that we get to run around and do things in. It's a gift from God. And for those of you that are religious, if you're not taking care of your body, this is kind of a slight kick in the butt that it's like you might go to church or you might have a religious practice at home, but if you're not taking care of your body that your creator gave you, he, she, it, whoever your religion is, doesn't matter what that God is to you, you're basically kind of slapping God in the face. I mean, you can pray all you want, you can recite scripture, you can do whatever your mantras, you can do all that stuff. But if you're not taking care of your body, like you're really not that religious. Like, because it's like, this is the vehicle that you've been giving. And what I've noticed is that the people, however they come around to do it, when they lift their body up and they start literally getting all the trash out, the chemicals and the toxins, and cleaning up the colon, and their cells start vibrating at a higher frequency, that's how you tune into God even more. Like your path to God, your connection is going to get, it's like a Wi-Fi signal, right? It's going to get much, much stronger. And I see so many people that had no spiritual practice at all. They get healthy like I did, and then all of a sudden they know something else is there, and then all of a sudden the spiritual part becomes the most important in their life. But the health piece was the bridge to get them there, to finally tap into their consciousness. And it's just a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing watching this happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tim, I'm going to end our conversation on how I end all of my podcasts, and that's asking you, my friend, when you look at your life and your legacy, how do you think you want that to be defined from a personal and professional perspective?
Well, I think about this from time to time, and I want to, I'm going to live my life. I told you earlier, like my life, my goal is to live my life, live my highest excitement every moment of every day to the best of my ability. But the second part of that equation is with zero insistence on a particular outcome. I have no outcomes. I just follow the thread of excitement. I do the best I can to do that because that's what brings me joy. And by doing this, by following that thread more and more and developing that muscle of following my excitement and my joy and my passion, I've been able to, I'm doing what I want to do right now. See, this is not work for me. This is fun. I love educating people. I love talking about this stuff. I could do it 24/7, which I do. Sometimes I have to, in social settings, turn it off a little bit. Just, because I'm so excited about it. But it resonates with people and it gets them excited for them to go do stuff. So that's the legacy. By being a light, what you do is you're light. You could take a dark room and you could be a little light, but you're still going to light up that whole room and you can light up a lot of people. I look at myself like a candle, and if I'm lit, I can walk around to you and I can light your candle. I can go to the next person, I can go light 1 billion candles, and it doesn't diminish my candle one bit. And so that's the whole thing, is to be lit, to light up as many people that I resonate with as possible, and to let that go on, because people have no idea how many people they can influence. I mean, you could be in traffic and somebody cuts you off and you have somebody writing with you, and instead of giving that person the finger, you're like, oh man, that person must, I have a lot of compassion for them. I wonder what happened. Maybe their dog passed away today, or maybe they're really frustrated with their relationship and they're late to work or whatever. And, giving that compassion and love towards that person. The person sitting next to you is watching you. You might have just changed the direction of their life by them seeing you, instead of being raged out from the other person that was raged out, cutting you off, to you went to love and compassion. You might just show them, you have no idea how many people you've affected, changed their life, and they affect other people, which could be thousands of people. That's the whole thing, is that we're all connected. Everybody listening to this thread today, and you and me, we're all the same. We're all connected on a higher level. And I think recognizing that is important, that we do make a difference just by being born.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tim, finally, tell me, if people want to get connected with the chemical-free body, or you personally, what's the best way they can do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the best way to do it is just our website. Just go to chemicalfreebody.com. That's chemicalfreebody.com. And there's all kinds of stuff. I also have a show called The Health Hero Show. It's a lot of free information. It's on all the major platforms. If they're interested in our world-renowned doctor-formulated detox and nutrition products, just go to the shop tab. And I'll show you how to get a discount. Scroll down to they're called special bundles, or bundle specials. That's how you get a discount. And when you guys also, if you get that free gut detox guide, we also give out a free 30-minute health strategy session with the coach, and we give a free $10 gift card for people. And we have a double your money back guarantee on all of our products, because I know they're going to work for 98% of people up the middle. And if they don't, please call us or send us an email to support@chemicalfreebody.com. And myself or one of my teammates will get on the phone with you. We'll find a different product for you. We'll refund your money if we need to, or we'll find a different product at somebody else's store, because we know how to read labels. And that's one thing we do, is we teach people to read labels. People have no idea how crazy the label industry is and what's actually going into products today. It's very hard to find anybody that's doing it right that you can trust. So we're just here to help people wake up and feel good, and help them make it easier for them.
Any way we can make it a healthier and happier society, I'm all about it, Tim. So I want to thank you for your good work in health and fitness, and helping people optimize their physical and mental health, my friend. Your work in the space and time on my behalf is most appreciated, and I want to thank you for being here this afternoon.
Thanks, Kevin. It was a pleasure.